right. Welcome back to the Board Drill Podcast. As always, I'm Kyle here with my co-host Matt, who's just flipping on his light. Tonight we have a repeat guest that we're happy to have back, Coach Ty Gower from. Now you get me all the time. It's Plano West, West Plano. It's one of them. It's Plano West. All right.
Right.
Coach, the running gag on the show has become that I can't ever say where anyone's at. I screw up the school name every single time. So anyways, Coach, welcome back to the show. We're excited to have you back. We appreciate it.
You guys are, first off, way too kind. It's always the whole, somebody gets something out of the first episode, and when, I guess you guys, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks after, you're like, hey, let's have round two, whatever round two looks like,
Yeah.
So it's always an honor, a blessing to be with you guys, and you guys getting this off the ground level and taking it from, you gotta start somewhere, right? The proverbial, you gotta start somewhere, and so you guys, man, it is enjoyable. And I've got roughly, depending on what the traffic looks like in DFW, anywhere from 30 to 45 to, sometimes it can be an hour drive home.
Oh.
And so there's numerous podcasts being listened to from all aspects. So, but anyway, guys, thank y'all so much, man. I appreciate you guys, and I don't know, it's like clinic. Don't take one thing from something. You don't have to take the whole, the whole kitchen, but take something, away with you.
Yeah, and so tonight, as we get into this, we're going to talk about, it's going to be not like, we do a handful of episodes like this every once in a while. If you're watching on YouTube, there's no visuals, nothing like that. It's a perfect podcast in the car episode. We're just going to talk about your personnel and molding your scheme to your personnel. At the high school level, we deal with it probably more than any other level, right? For the most part, no coaches in this chat, at least. We don't get to recruit our guys, all right? So you have who walks through the halls and walks through your door. So, I've always said a lot of times, I've been a 4-down guy myself. Coach, I know you're an odd guy, but it goes back and forth, and sometimes you don't get to choose. Some years I've been odd, some years I've been even, some years we've done other things, some years we run 3 and quarters and all this stuff. And so we're talking about molding that personnel tonight. Before we get into it, like we always say, if you're watching, if you're listening, please like and subscribe. It helps our channel grow, just like Coach was saying. And again, our deal is we just want to grow so we can help coaches. That's been our mission statement from the beginning. So we want to continue to do it. So like and subscribe, follow us on YouTube, all of our social media accounts. And again, we now have the boarddrill.com up and running. So all of our episodes are there, and all of the written content that we do, me and Matt are going to be writing like crazy. All football season long. We've already set up the fact that we'll be recording 2-3 nights a week because we won't get great coaches like Coach Gower on. So we're going to have to create our own content. So bear with us during football season when it's just me and Matt talking. It's not, good coaches. It's just mediocre ones like me and Matt. But we appreciate everyone that listens in. Coach, let's get into it. So where are we starting with? All right, molding personnel to our, to our defense. Where do we start with that?
Right. Again, like KB and Matt said, I mean, we're going to shoot from the hip tonight. This is the perfect road trip podcast, right? So, where do you start? And I'm guilty of this. I'm so guilty of, in high school, at any level, right? People say, well, we're a 3-4, we're a 3-3, we're a 4-2-5. Like we have this base of what we want to be in high school, right? And that's great. Like for me, I want to live in type 4, right? 4I, 0-4I, playing 2I quarters. Like I would love to live in that, and that's where I feel good going to sleep at night, right? And while that's valid, while you've got to have a base and you start somewhere from your 7th grade all the way to your varsity, right? You've got to have somewhere that you start ABC 1, 2, 3. In high school, it's like you said, you got to play who your best 11 are. And some years, man, it may be your 3-4.
Yeah.
The next year, it may be a 4-2-5. The next year, it may be 3-3-5.
Yeah.
Right. And so I say that kind of, on one hand, great, have a base. Call what you want, 4-2, 3-4, whatever it is. But on the other hand, what does my hallway, what does my locker room, what does my defensive personnel look like? right? And then that's a whole conversation of okay, do you make your kids fit your scheme, like the DC scheme, or does DC make, hey, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to move my chess pieces around, right? And I'm going to get the best 11, the best 12, the best 15 kids I got on the field and mold it.
If you're listening in, coaches.
There we go.
Kid wanted to come in and say goodnight real quick, so we got a quick break here.
Night, buddy. Hey, I love you. That's my 5-year-old. That's
love it.
That's
Coach,
great.
that's just right. It's what we always talk about, right? What's the most important thing? And saying goodnight to your kid is way more important than our podcast. I'll tell you that right now. So I love it.
Side note, I came Texas Coach Association was just at this, when we're recording this, obviously, was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday of this week. And it's awesome. It was in San Antonio, and it was great, the fellowship and the friendship. And my wife was outside and pulling in, been gone for 3 days, and she's been a single mom with 2 kids. And I'm pulling in, and I posted on Twitter, and my 5-year-old son and my 1-year-old daughter run to me like out in the street. And so at Coach Gower on Twitter, it's heart, it's heartwarming. Makes me feel like that's what matters. So anyway, I digress. Let's move on. So again, going back to, hey, what's in my locker room, right? Who are my best 11, my best 15 kids that I'm going to have? And I think, again, that adage, that defense coordinator, well, I'm going to make the kids fit my scheme. And that there's a lot of validity to that. There's a lot of good point to that. I've kind of gone, and as I've gotten older in coaching, I'm going to go find the answer to get my best 11, 13, 15, 18 kids and say, okay, we're going to stay within our basics, within our ABCs and our terminology and verbiage, but how do we get those 11 best or those 14 best on the field? Right?
Yeah, I always said within our DNA, right? That was always a good term that I used, is as long as it's in our DNA, we can do it.
And I think part 2, again, where I'm at in DFW, okay, at the highest classification, 6A, I see that, let's call it the same offense every week. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, the hard part is the running back's going to Texas. And on the same team, the wide receivers got 30 offers, right? And so I don't see the wing tee and the 22 personnel and all that stuff, right? I mean, as a 70 play offense and a Friday night, right? We're going to see 10 personnel, 11 personnel, some 20, some split back stuff. And so I also, part 2 of this. So part 1 was to reiterate. Part 1 was what's in my hallway, right? Yeah. What's in my locker room. And part 2 is what offenses am I combating week in and week out? You know what I'm saying, right? Yeah. And again, you guys who might be listening up in the tundra, up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, all that other, you guys who see some of the communist stuff that y'all see from an offensive standpoint, okay? It's like I'll get a DM on Twitter from some guy like, Coach, week 1 we play air raid. Week 2 we play wing tee. Week 3 we play power eye. Week 4 we play. And I'm like, yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy. And so I also think that, again, part 2 is what offenses are you seeing and to combat this offense? Well, with what we see, the whole spread, quote, Saturday offense and the Division I guys, the Power 5 guys that we see, and even Group of 5. With Texas, it's North Texas, Texas State, UTSA. There's some really good football that goes on, and you still can't forget about the kids going to Texas A&M, great. That one over there is going to UTSA, and he's a really good player. Yeah. And so then to segue to part 2, within part 2 is the nickel dime hybrid DB guys, right? And it seems like almost everywhere I've been, that's the plethora of kids that I have been around, right? And so that thus leads to part 3. What's in my hallway, number 1? What offense am I combating week in and week out mostly? Week 2. And then week 3, how do I make the puzzle pieces fit, right? Whether, again, it's a 3-3-5, it's a 4-2, it's a 3-2-6, right? I mean, straight honest, point blank, we're going to play some 3-2-6 on first down this year. Yeah. I mean, we are. We're going to play some 3-3-5. We're going to play some 2-4-5. And because again, our kids that can run and there's something to be said for that quote Jack Bandit boundary backer. Like he can move and he's in the boundary, but he can also play a 9 technique or 6 technique on the tight end.
Yeah.
On the flip side, let's say you've got a true 6 technique, right? Him into the boundary and dropping and all that other is probably not in his wheelhouse, right?
Yeah.
And so, like I said, on to part 3 is in saying all that, we have become, I don't want to say positionless. Okay, I don't want to use that term. I'm not going to make a corner play DN. I'm not going to make a DN play safety, right? But we have found within our rotations, meaning our individual periods, our off season, our winter conditioning stuff, that we're not just running gassers and 5-10-5s and benching and squatting and power clean and all that other. Like we are working, like our corner is going to know how to edge rush. Right. Yep. We're not just going to teach him man technique and cover 3 dividers and all that other. Right. We're going to teach the corner to edge pressure, just like we would our nickel from the field. Does that make sense? Right.
Yeah. To me, we all know I'm the king of corner blitzing, so that makes perfect sense.
So we have developed our pod, our indie groups, our pods, and our group work, right, to where like our corners for a 5-minute period, they'll go with our outside linebacker coach. Right? Because we're going to find all 11 to be able to blitz, even the field corner. We brought the field corner during spring ball this year.
Oh, I love it.
Right? We brought all 11. So we're going through our cut ups because again, we've gone through January, February through March of winter off season, winter conditioning, and we're going to teach every defensive kid to block, destruct, to tackle, do all that stuff, right? But hey, man, if corner, and that's nothing, injuries.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, your safety goes down. Do you move the corner to safety and bring in the guy from the sideline to play corner? Right? Like, what does your injury list look like? What does your depth chart look like? Okay.
Yeah, and then coach, that goes even further because, right, it's not just that, okay, well, we have a 2 that goes in. Your 2 typically doesn't get as many reps. So how much of the defense do they know, right? Hey, if you're anything like me and you love all these pressure passes and everything, sometimes when your 2s get in and maybe 1 or 2 of them, boy, it cuts down that playbook a whole lot. So where you used to have 16 pressure passes, you may only have 4 now, but if you're cross training those guys and doing all that stuff, and like you said, you have packages where they go in more. Well, if they know, hey, I'm going to play in this package, this 4-2-6 or 3-2-6 or whatever all it is, they're going to learn that defense a little more. So I think that's a big vital point that threat of getting on the field makes them more interested as well.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, even in January, we got back from Christmas, and it's not like we were doing formation rec. It's not like that. But we were like, okay, coach number 1 over there, he's running the edge rush station, right? Coach number 2, he's the, read the whole butter face, right? Where it's internal blitz, right? But we're reading the guard or the center, whoever it is. Like we're picking on one of those interior guys, the whole proverbial, if he's in, I'm out. If he's out, I'm in, right? Like it's not hard, right? But like we'll bring an interior safety blitz, right? And we'll pick on the guard or whatever it is. And now I've got to work off the guard. He's in, I'm out. He's out, I'm in, right? Or even coach, he high set me. I'm not sure what I got. Well, now I've got to work the dip rip move, right? The chop rip move. Okay. And so we're teaching our 5 technique like we would our safety. And so we have our rotation in the off season of working our pods, our group work, and every coach, it's like, okay, we got our DB coach, we got our D line coach, we got our inside linebacker coach. Every coach is working with every kid.
Yeah.
In the off season, January, February, and March, and us, I mean, it's great because not that it gets too cold down here, but we can practice every day because our indoor is beautiful, and I've tweeted that out, and we can do a lot of stuff, So by the time we get to spring ball in April and May, we've worked it for the past 100 days,
Yeah, coach. The one thing that I figured out, and everything you're talking about reminds me of the one year I was at Oakleaf, and our starting free safety was also one of our most explosive pass rushers off the edge. So we had a package on third down where he was a rusher and we brought in a backup safety. And people were like, why do you do that? I'm like, have you seen DT rush on the edge?
Right.
I mean, the kid had like 6 sacks. And it's like,
that,
well, that's why, because I'd rather the quarterback not throw it.
that goes with to segue to number 4. Great point. Okay. Is yes, you have your par downs, right? You have your P and 10s, your first downs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. They went 11 personnel. Great. So we're going to go base 3-5. Wonderful. Well, the next down, second down, and they subbed, so they took tight end out and they went 10 personnel. Well, now we're going to go 2-3-6, 2-4-5.
Yeah.
Like we're going to sub and personnel with them, right? And again, I know, guys, I'm a small town coach's kid from Class A, Oklahoma. Okay. So I get it. You're like, Coach, you're subbing in personnel.
Yeah.
I'm at the large classification, Texas. We can do it a little bit. Right. So I don't want you to get the wrong impression, Coach. We can't do that. I hear you. I feel you. I understand you. Small town coach kid from middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. I get it. Like your defense is your defense. I get it. But for you guys that have the ability to rotate in personnel with offense, right? It then goes, okay, again, you drew up your best 15, 18 kids in January. And how do you make the puzzle pieces fit for your defense? And again, what we talked about 5 minutes ago, what offenses are you combating?
Yeah.
Right. And you have your menu for, okay, if they get 11 personnel, we're doing this. If they get 10 personnel, we're doing this with these different people. Right. And so I think, if Coach Dixon runs out there and I know he's in 10 and 11 and 20, yeah, I can play 10, 11, 20, the same defense, the same personnel. I get it.
Yeah.
But I want him to go, okay, I've watched the past 3 games and that's not what I expected. Right. I'm personnel and I'm matching with him.
Yeah.
Okay. And thus, here we go again. You talk about third down. Third down, there's some, I've tweeted this out, talked about it, Glazier. Like we had a package one year where it was a 0-3-8 on third down, third and long.
0 D linemen.
0 D linemen.
Yeah.
We had three linebackers in the game and 8 DBs. Right now it was 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 12, etc. Right. But you talk about having some really, really, really fast guys on the field and being able to play different coverages and mans and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so that goes with, and this is a big one for me, 0-3-8. Like there's been one year, Coach, where it was a 1-4-6 on third down. Right. Because we looked at that, who is our fastest dudes to play coverage and or blitz. Because again, we've worked at January, February, March. We've worked all the blitz pass, worked all the edge rush, all the chop rips, the dip rips, the ice picks, worked all the pass rush drills that you can imagine, right? And now it's go time. And it's April, it's May, it's spring ball, it's June, July that we can work in the summer. August 2-a-days, scrimmage. By week 1, we've worked all those pressure pass. We've worked those individual periods, those pod periods, or group periods for 7 months out of the year. Right. Yeah. And it allows you to be multiple and allow, the whole word multiple, the big buzzword right now. But I think it's a buzzword, but I also think it's a very, very important word that we live in as defensive coaches. Because I know Coach Dixon is going to be like, if I give Dixon 2 fronts, 1 blitz, and 2 coverages, I will get beat.
Yeah. I mean, offensive coaches are as good as they've ever been. So
and so in that segue, and we can kind of go from here. What else I found is putting young kids, young sophomores on the field in crucial situations.
Yeah.
Hear me out on this. So if you're in the truck, pull over, stop, get in the drive-thru at Whataburger, just hear me out on this. When you build your packages, and obviously you're like, Coach, I want the best 11, the best 14, the best 16 kids on. You're right. I get it. What about that 15-year-old sophomore, right, who you're like, Coach, he's not ready for a 60-play Friday night. I get it. But he is ready for the kickoff return, the punt team, right? And you put him in a situation on 3rd and long that he has a job, one job to do. Again, we're talking about 15-year-old sophomore. He's not your starting safety. He's not your starting will linebacker. He's not your starting nickel star guy, right? He's a backup. But he is a kid that is going to be a good player. He's just 15. We were all 15 years old at one time, right? And so what else do you do with these packages that you're building? Like, all right, I know we want to win now. We want to win this year. I get it. But think about building program, building culture, getting program kids, right? Play that 15-year-old sophomore on the kickoff return, on the punt team, but find him a role, a job. Hey, dude, you do this. Or 2 jobs. On this call, you do this, and on this call, you do that. Like, boom, done, that's it. That you got A and B. That's it.
Yeah.
And think about how many third downs you hopefully get, right? You hopefully get in a Friday night, right? Let's say that you get, I don't know, 8 third and longs, 7 to 8 third and longs in a Friday night. Multiply that by 10 games. You're roughly what, 70 to 80 plays that kid has run in a crucial situation on Friday game night, right? Including the kickoff.
Coach, real quick, you cut out just a little bit there.
Okay, which part?
Coach, can you hear me?
Yep. Hello.
Yeah, sorry. We'll back up. We heard you get about 8 or 9 third downs on a Friday night, third and longs, and then right about there you cut out. So
all good. So do the math. You got a 10-game season, right?
Yeah.
That sophomore kid, he's run 8 plays on third and long, third and medium, right? Like you gave him that job, that you gave him that personnel grouping to go on the field. You gave him this call to do this job, and you gave him 8 plays on a Friday night or 10 plays. Multiply 8 times 10 games. 8 plays times 10 games. That's 80 plays to 90 plays, plus the kickoff return, plus the punt, right? And what have you done for your young sophomore? You've got him bought in.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, you put that kid way ahead.
And you build his confidence.
Uh-oh.
Absolutely.
Okay, just FYI, we're having some freezing problems, technical difficulties here. So anyway, but I want to spend a lot of time on this and make sure, like, Coach, I'm trying to build a program, trying to build some culture, right? I don't care what level you're at. I don't care, big school, small school, it doesn't matter, right? You have that kid who's not quite ready for 60 snaps a night, but he can play 10 plays on defense. How many kickoffs, how many kickoff returns, how many punt are there? So what? He's played 30-ish snaps, 20, 25 snaps on a Friday night, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean,
that kid through what? Through the season, through January and February, now he's a starter, right? And so we all have that kid. We all have that 15-year-old sophomore. You're going, oh, I don't really want him playing 60 plays. But he's going to be a good player. He's just 15. So get him on the field and give him a job to do. And so I think that also goes with building packages and personnel groupings, not for just this year. But if you're trying to build a program and revamp culture and all those things that we all as coaches go through, I think that's really, really important. And forgetting also about classification, sophomore, junior, senior, right? And saying, okay, yeah, he's really, really good. He is too. He is too. He is too. This kid's kind of hanging around in the weeds. He's 15 years old. How do I get him some reps on Friday night? And you just build a package with him. So,
yeah,
I think I've talked to you about some, I don't know, 5 or 6 things to think about. Your hallways, what offenses are you seeing? What are your indie pods, your group work look like from January? I think as coaches too, I'll work on that in the summer and too late.
Correct.
Too late. Weight room's great in the off season, conditioning, like we all do it. It's wonderful. But I think football is year round. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying we're running out there and running this coverage and that. It's pods. It's easy work. You know what I'm saying? And because we as coaches sat down in January and said, all right, here's what we want to do. Here's how we're going to teach it. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, no, Coach. I mean, I agree with you. It sounds like we've done very similar things. I didn't do it we just called it different stuff. Like I had packages just like you. We didn't do like it's a 2-3 this or whatever. We just said, hey, it's our cheetah package, right? And there's a bunch of DBs rushing on the D line and then a different defensive backfield. It wasn't like there was no name to it, right? We just named it something. There was no like, number associated with it, but it was probably very similar. I just never thought of it like that. And when you're first talking to me, I'm like, God, I can't imagine running a 1-4, 5 or 1-4-6 or whatever this is. And then I'm sitting here thinking as you're talking, I'm like, well, shit, never mind. I've done that. And I just didn't, different perspectives, right? Different mindsets. And then I love your point about the young guy. I had a young guy that played like a dime for us his sophomore, junior year. And he just had two guys that were just a year older, really good in front of him. But we played a lot of dime because we got a lot of people in third and long. So he played like 30, like he'd play like 20, 30 snaps a game because he'd also be the backup nickel. And he was a kid who ended up playing college football, still playing today. And it's like we found a way to get him on the field. And you know what he didn't do? He didn't transfer to a rival or somewhere else. Kids do that. So
and you talked about you named it Cheetah, right? I also think that's very, very important to come up with names.
Yeah, coach is breaking up a little bit still, so we'll
see. Say
again.
Yeah. I think.
Sorry, you were breaking up. We got package names.
Well, again, we're having some kind of technical difficulties. You're listening to the podcast. If you're listening on truck,
yeah, it's okay.
Anyway, I think it's very, very important that you come up with packaged names, right?
Yeah.
That you come up with packaged names, and within that package, your calls are associated with that package. Does that make sense?
Great.
Example. Like I said, I'm from Oklahoma. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm in Texas, but I'm born and raised. My roots run deep, and I'm from Oklahoma, and part Native American, and we had a third down package that was called Renegade. It was and I've talked about on Glade other clinics, and the package is called Renegade, and our calls out of it were Native American terms, right?
Yeah,
Apache, Choctaw, Sioux. Okay, we had a Geronimo call, right? And so we would say, hey, Renegade's package, and these guys would go in, whatever the personnel was. Again, it could be 155, 038. That was that 1 year where our Renegade package was 038. There were 8 EDs on it, because we're going like, here's what else we're going through our winter testing. Who runs the 40 the fastest? He does. Get him on the field.
Yeah.
Right. And again, I'm not saying it's a first deal. Okay. I'm saying this is a third and long, and Dixon's going, those guys can run. And if guys can run, some of them can cover. Right. And, we're making that apex field nickel star guy, and his left tackle's having to kick all the way out to the field.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You may pick him up, you may find him, but it's like, I'm getting the one-on-one that I want with a fast dude, a dude that can run from the field against. Then your left tackle's probably good. I get it. But he's going to come back to sideline back, coach. I just had to kick slide 7 yards. Right? And so, again, talking about, I think it's important to find that package, whatever those packages are, and find names. So it's like, okay, base, or hey, green package, or red package, or something.
Yeah,
and what we found was within those packages, and when I was in Oklahoma, okay, Native American population, right? Okay, of all tribes, of all tribes, and when you kind of first put it in, because it was that quote, move around, radar, whatever pack, you've seen it, right? Nothing innovative, nothing new, but our kids loved it because it was like positionless, right? Like I told the kids, like, dude, I don't care if you sit up by your girlfriend pre-snap, as long as you get to this place post-snap, right? And so our kids loved it because it associated with many of them through Native American culture, heritage, and here's what else: you're teaching history, right? You show a playbook slide of Geronimo, and you give them a 2-minute. Here's who Geronimo was.
Oh yeah,
right. And 1 year we had a kid who was Comanche. So we put in a Comanche call, right? And we brought the corner, the mic, and the nickel. It was a 6-man pressure, and we brought those people. We're at the Brownie corner, the mic, and the nickel from the field.
Yeah.
Right? And so it resonated with this kid, right? And again, you're having that buy-in. from kids as an example, Native American heritage, right? I'm Choctaw, right? Of course, we had to have a Choctaw call, right? and we had a native call. That was what the nickel going to blitz inside, right? But kids where I was from and kids that I was teaching and coaching understood this package and understood the calls and how it was associated, right? And I think it also then gave them some buy-in because they'd come in almost every Monday and they draw this helter-skelter blitz, and it's like, who's got that guy? You know what I'm saying? But it created buy-in. Yeah. Forget the blitz path. Forget, okay, you're going to the A, and you're going to cross dog into the B, and didn't matter. Like, our kids would come in, our senior captains, kids that understood, like, Coach, what about this blitz out of Renegade? And you'd run it, like on a Monday practice just to keep them happy.
Coach, that's so strong when you can take those images and stories and put it to your actual defense. That's where kids really it resonates with kids. And I've seen it. We did it in our leadership. When I was a head coach, we would put these images with these leadership concepts, and we could reference them throughout the year. And that image brings up that concept right in the kid's brain. And it's such a strong tool to use.
I think also, like since moving down here, I've had to learn some Texas history. I mean, we have an Alamo ball. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just some stuff that Texas kids can resonate to, right? And our kids, they figured out, like, I've been down here going on 6 years now, and I'm still trying to figure out some Texas lingo, and they want me to like the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm struggling with that.
Don't do it.
But we've come up with terms that are all Texas based: Spurs, Cowboys, Rangers, Astros, Stars, Aggies, right? We've come up with code words and names and word families for packages, right? That are associated with the whole state of Texas, right? And so I think, a coach is a teacher, teacher's a coach. And there was something to be said about, we name our personnel groupings this because it resonates with the kids, either in a geographical area, a demographic, right? I instead of calling it, okay, it's base, green package, red package, cheetah package. No offense, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I was at a place. I was at a place that we call it, here we go again, we call it our speed package, just like your cheetah, right? But where I got it was from, like, we had Chevy, Corvette, Camaro, Mustang, right? And that resonated with our fast people. Mustang meant we were going to bring the Mike and the Sam, right? Camaro meant we were going to bring the corner and the Mike, right? And so that really stuck with me as a young coach. I learned that about creating package names, obviously getting your best people on the field, but creating package names for those people, for those kids, and then teaching the history of Native Americans, right?
Yeah.
And the guy I used to work for would be like, hey, what kind of car do you drive? It's a Chevy, whatever, right? And one year we had a motorcycle package, and I've ridden motorcycles like my whole life and been around them. So Yamaha, Suzuki's, Harleys, like you name it, we've done it. Like I've been on top of it, type of deal. And so I think creating packages, like, again, 335, 245, 34, 43, whatever the package is, but naming it, giving it a solid name, because kids will be like, green package.
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here, right? And when we talked about that Renegade package, like what Geronimo do? Fight orders. He wasn't going to be taken alive. You know what I'm saying, right? And you give that history, and you show them a clip, right? You show them some YouTube clip for 90 seconds. Like, this is who this guy was.
Yeah. Yeah, Coach, when I hear Renegade, the only thing I can think of where I'm from is just a guy riding a beautiful Appaloosa horse named Renegade, and throwing a spear into the ground.
Well, we had an Osceola call.
Osceola, baby. That's it.
And so, but
And
yeah,
then we got Cimarron as well. That's the other one. That's our horse mascot that not too many people know about. So,
but
Really?
I digress.
he runs around at baseball games, Matt.
I want guys who listen to this to understand the necessity of building multiple packages, because I want Coach Dixon. If he's game planning me on Saturday and Sunday, he goes, Coach, the 3rd and 9 is just like 1st and 10. They keep the same 11 people on the field. I made his Saturday real easy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, correct.
He changed personnel. He goes from 10 to 11, 11 to back to 10, 10 to 20, and I keep the same 11 dudes on the field. Coach Dixon's he's going to be like, all right, guys, well, it's 3 o'clock. See you. Bye. We're done. You know what I'm saying? So it's not because he's so much better than we are. It's just because, like, I made his life easy of having one package or 2 packages, right? 2 personnel groupings. So again, we all say we want to beat the 16-year-old quarterback. I get it. I'm trying to beat Coach Dixon too. I want Matt to work. You know what I mean? Like, okay, when they get in this package, like it's coverage. When they get in this package, it's helter skelter blitz. When they get in this package, well, they might bring 4, they might bring 5, they might drop 8, they might, they're doing various things, and then that leads to, okay, we've all had this kid. We've had the kid that's 6'3", it's 220, going to Division I, right? That's unbelievable.
We've not all had that kid, Coach. Sorry, but some of us have. No, I'm just kidding.
Had a kid one year that was really good, 6'3", 220, and when he was a pup, we played him at D lineman, right? We knew he was going to get bigger, knew he was going to grow, all that other. And there was one night he played end, right? Meaning both a 4 and a 5, right?
Yep.
Played the jack, the boundary jack. He played. We had a structure where he was like the 0 backer.
Yeah.
Right. And then I don't want to say he was the nickel, but he was like the walked off Mike kind of to the field. Right.
Yeah.
We had him at 4 different spots that night, and you better know where he was.
Yeah.
And yes, we bribed him a whole lot, but was he A, B, C, D, E? Field boundary strong, weak. Right. And so I didn't just want that kid. Oh, he's always to the boundary. Dixon's going to go, hey, we're going to run the field. No kidding. Right. Like I want Matt to go, I don't know where that best one's at. And so, we did that to him one night. Now it helps to have it. He's, oh gosh, highly intelligent, great kid, graduated college in like 3.5 years, like one of those, you know what I'm saying? Played at Division I football, just one of those special, rare kids. But one of the best compliments I ever got one night was after week 1, but OC from the opposing team comes over and goes, I did not know where he was going to be. To us, it was
That's tough.
Yeah,
that's
tough.
tough.
What you want to hear.
And not just because before our game, like we'd move him everywhere. Field strong, weak boundary. I mean, to the back, we'd move him everywhere, right? And then we did the same thing against them, right? It was like, hey, I had my game plan. Like, I got it. But that's the deal. You've absolutely screwed me when I have to know where that kid is.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you slow tempo down, too, if they're a tempo team, which is nice.
Right? Like, hey, I've called inside zone to the boundary, and he's to the boundary. I really don't like that call anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so that, again, goes with that. Within that personnel grouping, what are you doing with that one stud you got? And whether you have had him, do have him, or will have him, think about a package to move him around. Right?
Yeah, I mean, can you get your dude matched up on their worst O lineman? I mean, that's always something we game planned every week. Like, even if we did keep a guy in a similar spot, it's like, what's the stunt we can run with this dude on the D line to get him like one-on-one with the center eventually, even though he plays 5 tech for us.
Right.
How are we going to, we had a jam stunt, which would get him inside against that and all that. So, that was a big piece.
I've been fortunate enough to measure, multiple times, multiple cities, et cetera. And I always give them, because I talk about this topic a little bit about building defensive packages.
Yeah.
Right. Again, what does your locker room say? What offense are you combating, et cetera? But I talk about, okay, who has this kid who's unbelievable? It doesn't matter what position he is. Corner, safety, star, Mike backer, doesn't matter. Who has the Division I kid that's unreal? There's a few hands that go up, obviously. I'm like, okay, how many of you always keep him at corner? How many of you always keep him at Mike backer? And the hands go up, right? I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why don't you move that kid around? Well, coach is a corner. I understand he's a corner. Put him to the field and blitz him.
Yeah.
Right? And make Coach Dixon's life really hard. And so I give this, it's, kind of the 5-minute little splice of clinic I give of like, okay, preface here, I want y'all to understand what you're about to see is a highlight tape of one kid. But that's the point. The point is you built a package or packages to put him to the field, put him to the boundary, to put him stacked over the nose, to put him kind of in a walk Mike position to the back, away from the back, whatever it is. And everybody, you kind of get I've never done that. I've never thought about that. You're making one puzzle piece move, right? One chess piece. You're not making the whole 10 others move, right? You're making this happen for one kid. For one kid. Again, regardless of position. So we talk about positionless defense, right? Coach is a corner. I understand he's a corner. Play him at nickel and bring him.
But there's a lot of coaches out there that are uncomfortable with that, and because it's not what they know. They're not willing to venture outside that comfort zone and try to find different ways to attack offenses.
Yes. And here's what else. Thank you, Matt. I grew up as coach kid, right? Watching OU. I grew up about an hour from Norman, watching Bob Stoops, Brent Venables, that kind of tree, right?
Yeah.
Playing what? Nickel rules, 4-2-5, over Pirate Tampa, field palms.
Yep.
Fire zone 3, stuff like that, right? My first job as a GA, I'm at Henderson State University, a D2 in Arkansas. What are we? We're 4-2-5. I go coach secondary, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and Tulsa. Coach secondary, what are we? As a base, we're 4-2-5, right? Okay. And so for all my young coaching career, 4 down front, here we go, over too high, over front too high, let's go. And then I took my first coordinator job at 25 years old. Small school, 4A high school in Oklahoma. And of course I go to the hall, and of course, what do I think? Wherever I go, I'm going to be a 4-2. We're going to be over front.
Yeah.
I looked in our hallway and looked in our locker room and went, over. In Allah, here came the 3-4. Again, my first coordinator job, right? My first coordinator job, I've cut my teeth as a young coach, 4 down, 4 down, 4 down. And I go through our locker room and go, not 4 down. So here I am, first coordinator job at a small school in Oklahoma, and I had to learn the 3-4 real fast. And you talk about just throwing darts and hoping they stick somewhere, right? Well, Matt talks about being uncomfortable. Guys, if you want to do this and want to create, and I think you kind of have to. I think in today's football, and I know you in all 50 states, wherever you're listening, well, Coach, I don't see the same stuff you do. I don't see the same stuff that the Michigan and Wisconsin and those dudes see. Correct. So if you're listening up in the tundra, I don't envy you. I've talked to some of you guys through Twitter and all that other. Coach, week 1's this, week 2's that. I don't envy you. You guys are coaching your tails off because you're seeing, you're seeing a communist week 1, and you're seeing a dictatorship week 2, and you're seeing these unruly offenses, 8 out of 10 different weeks, right? And so you say, and Coach Dixon's right. Not many coaches want to get uncomfortable about this. Coach, I'm a 4-3. Coach, I'm a 3-4. Coach, okay, I get it. But what about that kid sitting on the sideline who is a pretty good player?
Yeah.
Are you going to beat your head against the wall and say, by gosh, I'm a 4-3? What's that kid going to do? Because he's not a 3 technique. He's not a shade. He's not a 5. He's not a Mike box backer. Right? What can he do? Well, he can do this, and this. Okay, find a way to get him on the field.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because, Coach, I am a quote unquote traditional 4-down guy, but the way we use our verbiage for our D line and our backers is actually 3-4 verbiage. So even though we're 4 down, we have a jack, we have a nose, we have a tackle, and then we have an end. But just in case because we will slide into tight front and do other things. That's why we named them the way we named them, so it would make it easier for when we structure it into an odd front. They'll figure it out in even front. Just because we call them a jack doesn't mean anything.
And I think,
as we change structure, we're like, all right, now this week we're going to get in some tight front. Kids are like, all right, what's the jack? I'm like, well, we talk about this all the time, right? Jack has got to be that athletic guy. And we put it in that kid's head right away that you're going to play some off-ball stuff early, even though maybe through camp we played a lot of 4-down. It always kept in that kid's mind, well, I get to be an athletic jack at some point, right? Or something like that. So,
and that, when we were all playing, it was what? It was Sam, Mike, Will.
Yep. Right. We're going to call I've never written Sam on any board ever.
Thank you. What do we call that kid now? We call him Nickel or
Star, right? They love that.
Again, this may not go with packages, but when you come up with like your names of positions, right? I mean, we have in, nose, in. I mean, okay, great. But like when you have that 7th grade, that 8th grade kid, again, you're building a culture, you're trying to build the defense, right? Well, it's a Sam, Mike, Will. I get it. Okay, I'm down. When you have that kid that's a young kid who you know is going to be a star for you, guess what? You just named his position for him. You're the star, and that's your position name.
Yep.
Right? And so playing star in our defense, our kids know it's our best football player.
Yeah.
And then I go back to our 3rd down. We have a personnel, okay? We have a personnel called military personnel, right? And we don't call them Mike, Will, and all that other. We call it the sniper, the assassin, the general, the colonel, right? And so within those, like if we were to say, gun, well, the general, who is the Mike, he's going to blitz.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So within this package, what we call our military package, we don't say, okay, you're the Mike, you're the Will, you're the Jack, you're the Nose, we change their names, their position names, to also reflect the blitz path, right, that this kid is going.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, right? And so this goes back, 10 minutes ago, like Matt was saying, some coaches are uncomfortable. Well, first off, what do we tell our kids? Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Do the same to coach, right?
They can change, you can change.
There's too many resources out there, all 22, to you guys tweeting out film, to whatever, to playbooks are getting out. You know what I'm saying? They used to be under lock. Well, they're starting to kind of be under lock and key a little bit more, right?
But now they just don't put terminology in them. If you look at them, there's like a few terminology, but like Saban's playbook was always like, what does SEC man mean? And then you'd call somebody like, it's Fire Zone man. You're like, God dang it.
Right. And, it's like the Big 12 pressures, right? That UGA talked about at a clinic one time. And guess what? They're Switzer. You know what I'm saying? Like it dealt with Big 12 terms.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And it made sense. Like, okay, here we go. We're in our Big 12 package or our Big 12 blitz groupings, blitz path. And they had what? They had terms and words that went with, the Big 12.
Weren't they all hot coverages, just for the record?
Not.
Were they 6-man hots or something like that?
It's 40, right? So it's like they're bringing 5. Yeah. They're bringing 5, but they would play in 40 coverage. I mean, they're playing two quarters bracket to the field, and they're playing 0 out to the boundary, right? And so
sounds familiar.
So what they did was they brought 5 somehow, somewhere, right? And they were playing quarters to the field, like I said, some type of 3/2 to the field, 0 to the boundary.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, that was something we do.
They want to have some same as, right? Too high. And, Jordan, that whole Saban tree and Kirby Smart tree, like it's humongous and huge, and the playbooks are 900 pages long, but they wanted a way to bring pressure but keep their day one base coverage, 2 high coverages, quarters coverage, right? And it's like, yet again, what did they do? They found ways to stay within the terminology and make it all make sense. Like there's sim pressures, right? What are they? Falcons, Chiefs, they're NFL teams.
Yeah.
Right. And so I
Yeah.
think
Sorry, go ahead, Coach.
I'm enamored. I'm enamored with verbs and terminology. I
Yeah.
really, really am. And by the way, if anybody wants to write like a dictionary or a glossary on
someone did.
Terminology, we will be billionaires.
Someone took the time to do it. I don't know if you've seen it, but Cody Alexander on Match Quarters wrote a glossary, and then it's like each section is like coaches' terms. So it'd be like Saban's glossary, Aranda's glossary, all that.
But that's the point. That's the point. We all, not all, but you see the same stuff, right? Like I think about what's called odd diner, right? Where they're showing kind of like double A, but
then they come from the edge.
And the 5 techniques, looping the A, and then outside whatever they are, star and jack or whoever, they're it's 4-man rush, but you're showing like double mug, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of called it diner.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I could call it restaurant.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? I could call it a pub. The point of the matter, I'm running the same blitz, but I call it Southern because it fit with our terminology. I don't say our, us, we terminology.
Yeah.
And so, some guy can print and talk about, here's Saban's terminology and Smart's terminology. That's wonderful. That's a lot of
take it and mold it to you. I'm with you, Coach. The Big 12 pressures, I ran a whole bunch, and early on, I was naive enough to think I created something. I was like, we do this really cool thing. We run palms of the field, and then we run lock to the boundary when we bring a guy. And I'm like talking with somebody, and they're like, yeah, I believe that's like a really old thing Saban does. And I was like, oh, so like deflated, because I thought I had finally created something in football, which if you're listening, you didn't create anything. This is a lesson I learned with my ego. You haven't created anything. Someone ran it 40 years ago, and you're on the circle back around.
That's the deal. Being a coach kid that, my dad's an old Bill Yeoman disciple, right? Bill Yeoman back in, 70s, coached at Houston, and he's an old split back veer, flex bone, et cetera guy. But when you're a small school, you coach offense and defense.
Yeah.
Right. And so, it's here we go again. It's like small school, your right guard's also your 3 technique.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Your fullback is your 6 technique. Your whatever. The point of the matter is, it's like, I'll draw something up on defense. It's like, yeah, dude, we were doing this in 1991.
It happens all the time. The time.
And so, I talking with my, and blessed to have, a great dad, and the guy was a former teacher and former coach of, almost 40 years in the state of Oklahoma. And the stuff that I have learned from him, because, I grew up thinking, hey, I was going to be an offensive coach, right? Grew up like, and then I took a GA job as a defensive secondary guy. And anyway, the rest is history. But it's like, it's so fun when I see something at clinic. I'm like, I've seen this. Those old VHS tapes, right? That my dad still has somewhere in a storage building somewhere. They're like 20 years old. I'm like, I've seen this, right? People talk about RPO as like, okay, it's an extended triple option. Like, what I'm saying? It's an extended double or triple. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, we're going to read the 5. How do we get on this conversation? Anyway.
We're just talking about terminology and everything. And it kind of fits into what we're talking about tonight, because it's just molding things to who you are. And like you said, like, to go back to your diner thing, I'll always remember diner because when I learned it was right after Texas and Georgia played in that bowl game, and Texas ran odd diner 2 and just ripped Aaron Murray's face off on it. And I was like, I don't know what that pressure is, but I got to learn it. And like, I drew it up, and I was sitting there, and then it popped up on Twitter, and I'm like, there it is. It's odd diner 2 trap. And so, like, in my mind, you're laughing at, that's what I've always called it since then, because the moment I learned it, that's what it was.
And that's what else. I've got some stuff that, as a GA in 2011, I will still call some things that was the first time I learned it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I will go to my grave still calling it that. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the nostalgia. I don't know if it's because I think the world of Coach Maxfield. You know what I'm saying? Who just retired now, but was the head coach of Kansas State. You know what I'm saying? Like, Like there are things that I learned my first coach job at 22 years old that I still call to this day.
Yeah.
And
if you happen to go to a new staff and you just happen to me and they're like, hey, we call it this, I'm like, no problem. In my head, I convert it.
That's right.
Right. If you call it restaurant, I'm like, all right, restaurant is odd diner two trap. And
Yes.
just so I know it. And in my head, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
And then I'll scream restaurant, but in my head, I'm going, it's odd diner two trap,
It's like we this past off season, we hired some new guys and, it's always fun. Like, okay, here's what we call it, right? As a defense. I'm like, what do you call it? What would you call it? And there's that whole, well, I've never run this for, or I would call it this.
Yeah.
Right? I always think coaches that are from different aspects of life and who they've learned from and all that other, like, I think that's awesome. Right? Like, people used to call it saw. What was saw?
Double edge.
Double edge.
Yep. Yeah. Sam,
right.
We go back to the Sam and Will thing, right? There it is.
Yes.
Saw.
Yes. and so I always think terminology, offensively, defensively, I always think that's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Back to naming packages.
I still learn, like, there's offensive guys, and I hang out with way more offensive guys than I do defensive guys by the nature of it. And you just, like, they'll say something and it becomes this new hot term. I see it on Twitter, and I'll call my buddy Aaron. I'm like, hey, what does this mean? And he's like, oh, it's just this. I'm like, oh, okay. Why don't you guys just say that? He's like, it's the hot term for it now. And you're like, why do you guys do that?
That's what else, coaches, how it is. Coaches, we have our own ego. We have to. That's survival, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, it's great to have humility, right? It's great to be selfless, right? We're in this profession because somebody helped us with, we had a coach affect our life, right? And because we want to see the next generation do great things, right? I mean, we're called to coach, right? And winning's great. It's a byproduct of things that we're able to do in the classroom, on the field, off the field, all the stuff, right? Okay. But I think about like what you're saying of the verbiage and the terminology. just how, gosh, I'm at a loss for words, I guess you'd say, but how terminology is not universal in football, even though
it's not.
Even though we all run the same stuff, right? You call it something and I call it something, but yet it's the same deal.
Coach, palms coverage has like 4 different terms. There's palms, there's 2 reads. Saban calls it clamp. And I forget there's one other one that's out there. And so like sometimes when I write, I'll write like palms and then I'll do like the, backslash 2 read backslash clamp. Because I want to make sure, like, if you're reading it and you're a coach and you come from a different background, like, what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Stubby and mini. Those are both the same thing.
Like, I think about, like, offense, right? What's mesh? We think your receivers mesh.
Yeah.
Right? Smash. Or China. Right? Smash China.
Yeah, hitch in the corner. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And so, but mesh could be called, depending on your verbiage, right? It could be called a number.
Yeah.
Right? Or it could be, it's like, Mike Leach, 95 White Cross.
Yeah.
Right? Well, somebody might call that Utah.
Correct.
We're sitting at a clean. Like I said, I was at Texas Coast Association this past couple of days, and I'm like, and Baylor gets up there, and then Texas gets up there. I'm like, it's the same call. It's like this. It's a different word, but it's the same thing. Like, and so again, I talk about coaches like having an ego, right? Because we're competitors. Okay, I don't say get a big head, so I say ego, not big ego, but little ego.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like we have our ego of, I'm going to call it this because that's what I believe in. And there's something for coordinators. There's a lot you have to have a belief system of what you do.
Yeah,
you have to. Okay, but with that ego, it's like I'm going to call it this because that's what I feel good about. That's my verbiage. That's what I want. Even though I stole it from Miranda, I stole it from Kirby Smart, I stole it from Jim Leonard, I stole it from name the defensive coordinator, right? And their playbook, but I'm going to call it this. You know what I'm saying? And like, there's still some things like sugar, spice, whiskey, water. Those are 5-man pressures from the strong and weak, right? That OU, I mean, in Bob Stoops 2002 OU playbook, guess what? Sugar, spice, whiskey, water are fire zone.
Yeah.
Well, as a base, 3 under, 3 deep, bringing 5. NCAA pressure from the field of boundary or strong or weak, 3 under, 3 deep. Boom, here we go. And he called it sugar, spice, whiskey, water, right? So guess what we do? And I'll be honest, whether you're playing us or not, doesn't matter. Sugar means the mic and the nickel, like for an odd front, right? We're bringing 5. 3 down linemen, the mic and the nickel from the field. We're going to play some type of base. They won't. We're going to play, cover 3, middle field close.
Yeah.
Boom, it's easy. Okay, but I learned it what? As sugar, so guess what I still call it? Sugar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
it is, Coach, I'm the same way. Like, look, because when I was at Florida State, it was like Pruitt and Charles Kelly. So to me, look, cover 6 isn't quarter, half. It's weak rotation cover 3. Because that's what I was a part of. So, right, 3 is strong rotation cover 3, 6 is weak rotation cover 3, quarter, half is like cover 8, or something like that. I don't know. We ran more 7 than anything, which 7 is just the split zone coverage stuff. So I always laugh because when I write about cover 6 and people are like, what are you talking about? You're talking about cover 3. I'm like, sorry, my background is that's cover 6. And now when I write, I'm like cover 6. And I always put in parentheses, weak rotation cover 3. Right. And I have to write that way now so everyone knows what I'm talking about because Fangio's so popular right now. Well, he runs 6 and 8, and that's his rotation, whether it's 2 to the nickel or away. So,
and again, I've been fortunate to speak at some clinics all over the country, and I'll show them the graphic and the playbook and the what we call it and whatever else, and sometimes I'll stop. You kind of have that point to where you look at the crowd and you're 30 minutes in and you've lost a few of them for whatever reason, right? Okay. And you're like, okay, so you put the cowboy clicker down. And you're like, okay, am I going too fast? Have you lost interest? How can I get us back on the same page? Right? It happens. I mean,
yeah.
I heard some really good speakers this past week, and I found myself kind of lost in translation. You know what I'm saying? And so you clinic speakers, and again, this is advice that I got. This is passed down advice, so take it for what it is. Is there comes a point when you're giving a clinic, whether it's an hour long, whatever it is, where you got to put the cowboy clicker down and get in front of them and say, okay, this is what we call it. What do you call it?
Yeah.
What do you call it? What do you call it? And you will be fascinated at how many people run the same stuff you do, but how many 27 different language variations there are.
Yeah.
Right? And I know that's all over America. I understand that. But if you want to splice it down, go to speak at a clinic, right? So, yeah, like, there are times like I'm like, okay. And I tell everybody, like, listen, guys, y'all all run this. Okay, I'm not teaching you anything, but maybe I'm teaching the verbiage and the terminology. Yeah. Like maybe it's something that is better for you, right? And I can remember, boy, I was a GA, and we ran cross dog, right? The mic and the wheel through the A or the B or whatever it was, right? Remember, we were 4 down, okay, and boy, howdy, you talk about. This was a call, okay? It was if we wanted to cross the back, right? It was over cross dog back, 1 rat silver.
Ugh. Yeah.
Right? And you talk about signaling, 22, 23-year-old GA, right? And people who are going kind of tempo and fast. Because you got to remember, that's 2011, 2012. People were air raid, tempo, and fast. And there were a few conversations that I got yelled at because I wasn't fast enough signaling. I get it. But there was also that kind of taught me, like, okay, limit your verbiage.
Yeah.
Put your verbiage down to 2 or 3 words. Or it's like, and we've had a conversation on Sunday, like, okay, what do we call this? Okay, we got to wristband it. We got to put it on a wristband because we can't get everything out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, do you go the Gary Patterson terminology where you tell everybody what to do? There's that, you look at his wristband, right? Okay, he's got however many calls. Well, here's a great story for you. A guy I know used to be one of his GAs. and speaks so highly of him. Like, he speaks so highly of Patterson.
Yeah.
Like, he's amazing. He's a great guy, great coach, whatever. He said, I used to type those risk coaches. Okay. Said, you can't imagine how many plays there are, and it's about 6 font.
Yeah.
Right? Because it tells everybody what to do. And there's a lot of validity to that. There's a lot of validity to that.
Yeah.
But I think also there's to me, again, Gary Patterson won more football games than I ever will. But the point of the matter is, it's like, where do you find, to go back to our terminology, go back to our package names.
Yeah.
Say, okay, when we call this package, we're going to have the blitz and the coverage. Boom, done. 2 words, let's go.
Yeah.
So I think, and Matt said, like, some coaches are, uncomfortable with this. Like, you know how kids are. They don't even, like, kids won't say hi. It's or how's it going? It's sup, like SB. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it. Like, condense the verbiage, condense the terminology. Still get what you want.
Yeah.
But condense your words, and that's been instrumental for me, at least, as a coach growing.
No, I completely agree. So, all right, we've been rolling for about 70 minutes now. So let's we'll go ahead and wrap this up, Coach. We've already asked you kind of our closing questions and anything, but so real quick, I'm just going to ask you. You got the season coming up and everything. Are there any last minute things right now that you're thinking of that you're like, oh crap, we haven't quite? And I don't mean like on the field stuff, but even off the field stuff where you're like, oh crap, I still got to get to that. Anything out there for a coach to just keep on their mind, like, you better have this going into camp?
Okay. Here's again, at the time of this recording, okay, it's July 2024. I'm blessed that I only coach football, so I don't have a second sport, so my assistant, track coaches or whatever, that I'll blow them up in January and February, and, we'll have a staff meeting at 6:30 in the morning or whatever it is. And look, again, I'm from small town America, so stay with me for about 5 more minutes and we'll be done here. Guys, I've worn the hats. You know what I'm saying? I've driven the school bus and I've coached 3 sports, and, like, I've been there, done it, right? And gosh, it's the best education I've ever gotten. Just coach kid, being and doing that. But so that last minute thing that KB's talking about, we've been doing that last minute thing since about January. You know what I'm saying? And I know you defense coordinator saying, well, coach, I'm also the head wrestling coach. I'm also the assistant track coach. I get it. I'm not just counting that at all. Right. But I've been very, very fortunate and blessed to be around, like I said, we hired some new guys that are young. Like, I'm at the time of this recording, I'm 36 years old, and I'm the old guy on the defensive staff.
Yeah.
So got guys that want to be coordinators, that are hungry, that are going to be coordinators in time, right? And they make me feel young and old at the same time, because they poke at me because I'm the old guy, right? But at the same time, you asked the question, KB, of what's that last minute deal, and we all have
Yeah.
But we've been working on that last minute deal since January, right?
Yeah.
The stuff that we're going to put in August is in. Right? There's going to be a couple of red zone things, a couple of goal line things, a couple of third down things that we're going to do and look at in the next couple of weeks. But we have, and this can be, here you go, part 3. Here we go, part 3 of our install. You know what I'm saying? Part 3 of what our menu looks like. When I think about, like, In and Out, but then I think about Cheesecake Factory. Right? We've been on the method of Cheesecake Factory. Okay? And so in saying all that, I think football is year-round. Now, it doesn't mean, hey, I just got back from the Dominican for my anniversary, which I highly recommend, by the way. I'm taking a break. I go be a dad. Follow me on Twitter. Like I'm going to be the best dad and husband I can be. But we've been working on the last-minute stuff for a while now. So I'm not going crazy and losing sleep at night and having a headache and going, oh, I got to do this and this and this and this. We've been meeting as a staff since January.
Yeah. No, and Coach, there's a lot of validity to that. And I'm big on it. Today I tweeted out a big list of things. I'm not coaching right now. So I was sitting around. I was like, all right, what would be, somebody asked me the other day, they were just like, hey, any advice for a first year DC? And like, I was like, they were shocked that none of it was on the field stuff. And I was like, be yourself, be fun with the kids, be genuine. I said, and be super organized with all the other stuff. I said, all the off-field stuff, all the templates and the breakdowns and the install plans and all that stuff. I said, the field stuff will take care of itself. And he was shocked that I didn't talk like a lot of X's and O's in that moment. And I'm like, if you could be really organized and be genuine with the kids, everything else will be fine. Because everyone will follow you if you're organized and genuine. If you go out to like practice and you're not sure what the install is and all that, that's when people start to second guess who you are and what you're doing. So that was my advice. So if you're a coach listening, my advice is just be super organized and then just be as genuine as possible. I was really bad about that early on. I was trying to be the tough guy coach and the I'm not your friend and dictator and all that. And I sucked as a person when I was that coach. Now, if I go back, I'm much more Ted Lasso than I am Nick Saban, as I like to say. So
and leave you with this. I remember being 26, 27, 28. I was calling the 6A state championship in Oklahoma at 28 years old.
Yeah, wow.
And I remember being let's just call it very proud of myself. And I hate to admit that.
You got to be real.
I've been humbled numerous times since that time. And the thing is, never forget where you came from, where you started, and who helped you along the way. Because you did not get there by yourself.
Nope.
And it's not just coaches. It was players as well. On and off the field, right? Yeah. And so again, guys, I hope I gave you something if you're driving the truck. I hope I hope there was something you go, okay, that was no. Ooh, wait, that was good.
Yeah.
Right. Think about a clinic. You're not going to take 45 minutes away, and so you're not going to write everything down. You're not going to.
Yeah.
So somebody, not for us, not for us, not for us. Ooh, that is for us.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe that, young coaches, maybe that last part, you've been listening to me for an hour now. Maybe that last part was it.
We'll clip it. There you go. We'll clip it and throw it on social media. Because they ain't listening. Right, young coaches, we get them for about 22 minutes, I'm guessing. So
I think about that. First year, 7th year, whatever, doesn't matter. This will be my 10th year as defense coordinator in some form, at some place. And I'm trying really, really hard to be more intentional. Okay, as a man, as a coach, and trying to. What's fun is growing and molding your young coaches. Because here's the deal: I was once a young coach. And there's some days I'm like, I'm still young in this game. And then there's some days I'm like today, I was in the office today, like, I'm old. These guys are like 27, 28, and so I think about what my resume looks like and the people that are my references.
Yeah.
The mark of a coach is not just on the players, but when your name gets put on a reference sheet, that's when you know you've got some wins.
Yeah.
And I don't mean on a scoreboard. I mean, you got some wins when you get a call. Hey, man, tell me about this coach. You're on your reference sheet, and you preach and you speak like you better hire this guy now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, anyway, man, we could do this all day, all night, but let's call it good.
No, absolutely, Coach. I'm with you. So, if you're still listening, we appreciate you tuning in. Again, if you want to reach out to Coach, he is Coach Gower at Coach Gower on Twitter. You can reach out to us at the boarddrillpodcast@gmail.com. Again, don't forget to visit boarddrill.com. We do written articles every week now. They're in depth. We do diagrams, film, all that stuff. It's completely free for now. So get in now while it's free, because at some point we're going to monetize it, because, I'd love to do this full time. So we need to make a little bit of money. But Coach, thanks for logging on with us. We appreciate you, and good luck on the season.
Hey, thanks, man. Always pleasure, always a blessing, man. You guys, you keep rolling, man. You guys crushing it. Appreciate you guys. Thank y'all so very much.
Absolutely, Coach. Have a great night.
You too.